Augusta, just checking that we can start.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. Bonjour à tous et à toutes, je m'appelle Christine Buis, je travaille au Fonds Égalité et j'ai le grand privilège d'être coprésidente du Conseil d'administration de Coopération Canada en collaboration avec Oussama Khan. Je serai votre hôte pour notre Assemblée générale annuelle aujourd'hui. Je me joins à vous depuis Joignez-vous, également connu aujourd'hui sous le nom de Montréal, territoire traditionnel des peuples Kanien'kehá:ka, Anishinaabe et Anishinaabe, gardiens de la terre et de l'eau. Je tiens également à souligner que les bureaux de Coopération Canada se trouvent sur les territoires non cédés et non abandonnés de la nation Anishinaabe-Algonquin, connue sous le nom d'Ottawa. Nous avons beaucoup à faire aujourd'hui, alors mettons-nous au travail. Je me réjouis à l'avance de cette Assemblée générale annuelle qui, je l'espère, sera productive. Merci de vous joindre à nous. Welcome, everyone. My name is Christine Buis, and I work at the Equality Fund. I have the real privilege of being the co-chair of the Coopération Canada Board of Directors in partnership with Oussama Khan. I will be your host for our AGM today. Today, I'm joining you from Joignez-vous, also known today as Montreal, the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka and Anishinaabe peoples, who are the custodians of the land and water. I would also like to acknowledge that Coopération Canada offices reside on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation known as Ottawa. We have a lot to get through today meeting. Thank you for joining us.
I'm going to carry on for Mark. So we are on slide 3. So at the bottom of the Zoom window, you should see the interpretation icon, as interpretation has now been enabled. If you are not seeing the icon, I would like to check if you have downloaded the latest Zoom update. If you are using Zoom on a browser instead of the app, it won't work. When you have found the interpretation icon, click on it and you should see a pop-up window listing 2 languages. Click on the language you would like to hear. Once you have clicked on it, an arrow is seen next to it and an icon with the first 2 languages of the language you have chosen is seen at the bottom of your window. Now, the most important, at the bottom of the pop-up window, you will have seen the option to mute original audio. I would like you to select it so that you don't hear the original language and the interpretation simultaneously. On peut maintenant vérifier si tout le monde comprend. Si je change de langue, je vais vous demander de lever la main. Encore une fois, si vous comprenez aussi bien mon français grâce à l'interprétation. Great. Merci. Vous pouvez maintenant baisser les mains. Next slide, please. As you have noticed, some of you have a prefix added to your name on Zoom. This was done by our staff while you were in the waiting room. Those of you with a VM are the voting representative of a member organization, and those with the added board are, of course, Coopération Canada's Board of Directors, and you might be both. Coopération Canada staff are also identified with staff next to their names. Now, we also ask that you add your pronouns to your name. This can be done by following the simple steps shown here. Click on the participant's icon, then hover over your name in the list and click the rename button, then type in your pronouns next to your name. As you have noticed, you have been muted since you joined our meeting. You will stay muted for the duration of the AGM, and only the co-host can unmute you, but you have different ways to interact with us. We've scheduled a number of question and answer sessions during our AGM, and they will be announced by the presenters. This will be the time to ask questions to the speakers by typing them into the chat box or raising your hand. Indeed, if you would like to ask your question over the audio, please use the raise hand button, then I will be able to unmute you. We ask that you please use headphones if you plan to speak, and if you have a microphone, that's even better. You also have the option of turning your video on if you'd like to be seen. I'm going to ask everyone to raise their hands now so we can test that you know how to use that function. Great. Thank you. You can all lower your hands. The chat box will also be used to share some documentation. Even if all the documents have already been sent to you, each document will be dropped in the chat box by my colleague Générale as it is being discussed during the AGM to ensure that you can follow along with the discussions. Thank you, Générale. Next slide, please. To move motions in the AGM, we'll be following these steps. Our MC, Christine, will read a motion verbally. This motion will also be written on a slide so everyone can see it as well as hear it. Next, Christine will ask who is proposing the motion and who is seconding the motion. Please write in the chat first if you propose the motion and second if you second the motion. We will ask if anyone wants the motion to be voted on. If not, then the motion is accepted unanimously. If someone wants a vote, then we vote using the chat box. If you are in favor of the motion, you don't need to indicate anything in the chat box. It is assumed you support the vote. Christine will ask who is against or abstaining. Write your answer in the chat box, and then we will be counting those votes and making sure the votes belong to the voting members. Finally, if you experience any issues, you may email membership@cooperation.ca or let us know in the chat, and we'll attend to you quickly. Now back to you, Christine.
Thank you very much, Augusta, for stepping in at the last minute like this for Mark. It's really appreciated. Donc, pour vérifier le quorum, voici ce que nos règlements généraux disent. Quorum is 25% of membership in good standing. It further reads that if a quorum is present at the opening of, sorry, my computer is also lagging. It further reads that if a quorum is present at the opening of a meeting of members, the members present may proceed with the business of the meeting, even if a quorum is not present throughout the meeting. As of September 22nd, 2025, we have 102 members in good standing. And we have, can somebody from Coopération Canada share with me the numbers of people present? Is it 75?
Yes.
Great. So we have 73% of members that are present. Donc, on dépasse le 25%. Donc, c'est parfait. On commence tout de suite. On va donc procéder à la lecture et l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. L'ordre du jour se lit comme suit, comme vous voyez à l'écran. Donc, nous voulons de voir les considérations techniques et l'ouverture de l'Assemblée, de vérifier le quorum et nous allons ensuite adopter l'ordre du jour, le procès-verbal de l'AGA de septembre 2024 ainsi que la réunion spéciale des membres de janvier 2025. Nous procéderons ensuite au rapport des coprésidents du conseil d'administration ainsi que le rapport d'activité annuelle de Coopération Canada. Nous aurons ensuite une courte pause et nous procéderons ensuite à la présentation du processus de planification stratégique. Nous verrons ensuite la présentation des états financiers et la nomination des vérificateurs pour l'année 2025-2026. Ensuite, nous ratifierons ensuite le conseil d'administration et tout autre sujet divers et ensuite la levée de l'Assemblée. Y a-t-il des propositions et des modifications à apporter à l'ordre du jour? Donc, parfait. Donc, j'ai besoin d'une proposition pour adopter l'ordre du jour tel que proposé. S'il vous plaît, levez la main pour proposer et appuyer. Je vais prendre les deux premières mains levées comme personne qui propose et appuie. Splendide. Motion proposed by Eileen Alma and seconded by Anne-Catherine Bajard. Est-ce que quelqu'un demande le vote? Sinon, ça va être adopté à l'unanimité. Donc, je vais prendre une seconde pour voir si quelqu'un lève la main. Non, donc c'est adopté à l'unanimité. On va maintenant adopter le procès-verbal de l'AGA de l'an dernier et de l'Assemblée spéciale des membres de cette année. Pour cette motion, j'ai besoin qu'elle soit proposée et appuyée seulement par les gens qui étaient présentes et présents à la réunion en question. Vous avez reçu les documents cette semaine, donc je vais prendre pour acquis que vous les avez lus. Si vous avez vu des coquilles que vous voulez qu'on corrige et qui ne modifient pas le PV lui-même, s'il vous plaît, nous le faire savoir par courriel ou dans la boîte de clavardage. Sinon, y a-t-il des commentaires ou des modifications à faire? OK, donc j'ai besoin d'une proposition pour adopter le PV tel que proposé. S'il vous plaît, levez la main pour proposer et appuyer. Je vais prendre les deux premières mains levées comme personne qui propose et appuie. Donc, je vois ici, I have here motion proposed by Guy Smag and seconded by Will Posma. Je vais attendre une seconde pour voir si quelqu'un demande le vote. Et sinon, ça va être adopté à l'unanimité. Non, donc c'est adopté à l'unanimité. I would now like to invite my co-chair of the Coopération Canada Board of Directors, Oussama Khan, who will present our co-chair's report. Over to you, Oussama.
Thank you so much, Christine. So this past year has seen a continuation of many humanitarian crises, rising global tensions, growing threats to our civic space, and a drastic disruption to the global aid system. The challenges were significant and at times heart-wrenching, like the crisis in Gaza, and also included the dismantling of US aid and threats of significant cuts to Canadian international assistance. However, through it all, Coopération Canada sought to work with determination and tact, supporting our members and partners to respond to crises, defend rights, position and communicate our strategic influence and impact, and reimagine our collective future in a rapidly shifting global context. Next slide, please. So in the fiscal year 2024 and 25, we were thrilled as Coopération Canada to welcome the following new members: Action for Humanity Canada, Digital Opportunity Trust, Foundation Paul Jurin-Lajoie, Humanitarian Coalition, and the International Bureau for Children's Rights. Each of these organizations brings valuable experience and energy to our growing coalition. And we are so excited to welcome these new members to Coopération Canada. Also, I would like to welcome organizations that have joined us as members in this financial year since April, and that includes Action Against Hunger Canada, Conflict and Resilience Research Institute Canada, Education International, Expand Hope, Peter Gilgan Foundation, Medicine du Monde, Orbis Canada, RACI Canada, SecDef Foundation, and Tostan Canada. Again, welcome to our network. Kate and the team will talk you through the team's highlights and achievements for the year very soon. I would like to acknowledge the incredible Coopération Canada team and thank them for everything that they do to support our members and our collective work. I'd also like to thank the Board of Directors for the important role that they have played in governing and guiding Coopération Canada throughout this year. The board held 4 full meetings in 2024-25, and each of the 3 subcommittees of the board, the finance, the membership, and the governance, met 3 or 4 times during the year. Next slide, please. The board worked hard to provide strategic oversight of Coopération Canada and guidance and support to the organization's wonderful leadership. We engaged in strategic conversations around the future of international cooperation sector, the global and Canadian political context, and priorities for Coopération Canada's positioning and engagement. We approved our organization's annual organizational plan and budget and provided guidance and input on managing organizational risks. We finalized Coopération Canada's Code of Ethics revision, and we're so grateful for the robust member engagement on this revision process. The Board of Directors also took meaningful steps to embed equity, diversity, inclusion, justice, and belonging within its own governance practices. Following the resignation of an Indigenous board member in September of 2024, the board paused planned elections and the ratification of the revised Code of Ethics to create space for reflection. This process led to a revised call for nominations, additional steps to enhance onboarding and foster inclusive governance, and actions to build board awareness and capacity around Indigenous governance practices, which are now underway. I would also like to take a moment to recognize the contributions of some incredible board members who are coming to the end of their terms today. Eileen Alma of the Cody Institute has served on the Coopération Board of Directors for 6 years. During this time, Eileen served as co-chair of the board as well as chair of the governance committee. Christine Bouy of the Equality Fund has served on the board for 4 years, 2 of which she was co-chair. Eileen and Christine oversaw a number of important governance processes and were thoughtful and compassionate leaders of our board, always seeking to best represent and serve our membership and support Coopération Canada's dedicated leaders and team. We are so extremely grateful for their service. Thank you, Eileen and Christine, for your immense contributions. Tanjina Mirza of Plan International Canada is also coming to the end of 6 years on the board of directors. Thank you, Tanjina, for all that you have given to our board and to our sector. We would also like to thank Tracy Wallace of the Northern Council for Global Cooperation and Zehra Rizvi, formerly of the Saskatchewan Council for International Cooperation, for their service to the board of directors as they come to the end of their 2-year board rotation as representatives of the Inter-Council Network. Please join me in thanking all of these incredible people and leaders for their service. With that, let me pass it back to Christine. Thank you once again for being here and for your support over the past year. In the months and years ahead, collaboration and partnership will be more important than ever before. And the board is grateful for all of your support, for your engagement, for your contributions to the work of Coopération Canada.
Thank you, Usama, and thank you to all board members for your continued support and engagement. Now it's time for questions. Please raise your hands if you'd like to be unmuted or use the chat box to express your comments, praise, or concerns. I'll just wait a few seconds. Merci. Je passe maintenant la parole à Kate Higgins pour le rapport de l'équipe de Coopération Canada.
Merci beaucoup, Christine, pour l'excellent travail que vous accomplissez aujourd'hui et pour tout ce que vous avez apporté à Coopération Canada et à notre conseil d'administration. Je suis très reconnaissante à toutes les personnes qui participent à notre AGA aujourd'hui. Cela témoigne de votre engagement envers Coopération Canada et de votre confiance dans notre travail collectif. Je suis très, très fière de tout ce que nous avons accompli ensemble en 2024-26 et je vous encourage toutes et tous à consulter notre rapport annuel disponible en ligne maintenant. Derrière chacune de ces réalisations se cache une équipe formidable et j'ai maintenant le privilège de leur céder la parole pour qu'elle vous présente des moments forts de l'année. Nous commencerons par l'équipe des politiques et j'ai maintenant le plaisir de passer la parole à Andy. À toi, Andy.
Merci beaucoup, Kate. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Andy Ouedraogo and I'm the Civic Space and Government Engagement Lead within the Policy Team. Je prends la parole aujourd'hui au nom de toute l'équipe des politiques. Notre travail généralement couvre la recherche, le plaidoyer, la collaboration avec le gouvernement, la concertation mondiale, mais je pense qu'au cœur de tout cela, il s'agit vraiment de faire entendre la voix des membres là où les décisions sont prises. The summary of activities that I will share with all of you today is the result of the entire policy team's work, a team that is composed of our director, Paul Farron, Darren Seller-Perrett, who unfortunately could not join us today due to a significant time zone difference, and Manuela Mouchel-Kalong, and each one of them has played a role in advancing the work that I will be presenting. This year, we made sure Canada's voice and the voices of our members were heard where it mattered. We welcomed the boost for humanitarian action in the 2024 federal budget, supported by a statement signed by over 100 organizations. And at the same time, we raised concerns about the deep USAID cuts earlier this year, reminding Ottawa that Canada has a responsibility to protect global development gains and to take action for acute humanitarian needs. Our advocacy did not stop at the budget, however. We stood with our members in response to atrocities and conflict in Gaza, in Haiti, and in Sudan, issuing public statements, engaging with government, and mobilizing media to call for principled Canadian leadership grounded in humanitarian law and accountability. We also produced evidence and ideas that shaped policy debate. We published the Canadian AIDS Trends Report, authored the International Cooperation chapter of the Alternative Federal Budget, and supported research on Canadian CSOs and the Triple Nexus, which identified opportunities to bridge humanitarian development and peace work. And finally, in the lead up to the UN's 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, FFD4, we engaged members and global partners alike to advocate for principled Canadian participation and to broaden Canada's vision on development finance. Next slide, please. 2025 a aussi été une année de concertation. Alors que le Canada a mené le G7, Coopération Canada a présidé le C7, afin que les voix de la société civile influencent les prises de décision qui ont un impact mondial. Grâce à des groupes de travail thématiques et à de vastes consultations, nous avons élaboré le communiqué du C7, présenté à la Sherpa du G7, au corps diplomatique et à plusieurs autres partenaires. Nous avons aussi pris le temps de réfléchir à l'avenir. Avec l'initiative sur le futur de la coopération mondiale qui était financée par le CRDI et aussi connue sous le nom de Futures Initiatives, nous avons mobilisé plus de 350 personnes dans 17 activités de recherche pour explorer les scénarios plausibles de coopération dans l'horizon 2035. Ces rapports orientent déjà des stratégies d'organisation comme Forus et le CISO et alimentent le dialogue au Canada et ailleurs. Plus près de chez nous, nous avons contribué à la 8e édition du rapport Progresser dans la mise en œuvre des objectifs de développement durable qui présente l'évaluation de la société civile sur les progrès du Canada ainsi que son examen national volontaire à l'ONU. Nous avons également appuyé des initiatives en faveur de l'espace civique. Avec Resilient Societies, nous avons soutenu des défenseurs ou défenseuses des droits humains en exil lors du lancement du rapport Struggle Across Borders à Washington. À l'international, nous avons pris part à l'Assemblée générale de Forus au Botswana et avons été élus à son conseil, ce qui nous permet d'ores et déjà de contribuer à l'orientation future d'un réseau mondial de plus de 22 000 organisations. Au pays, nous avons collaboré avec Imagine Canada pour promouvoir des pratiques de financement fédéral plus équitables, obtenant la prolongation du délai pour les dons de bienfaisance, un petit gain certes, mais nous espérons très concret pour les organismes qui étaient sous pression. Elections, as you would have imagined, inevitably shaped our work. During the 2025 federal election, we supported members with tools, webinars, and coordinated messaging while making our nonpartisan position clear in an open letter to party leaders calling for strong Canadian global engagement. After the election, we welcomed Prime Minister Mark Carney, his cabinet, and MPs from across the political spectrum, reaffirming the sector's role as an essential partner in advancing Canada's global leadership. Beyond elections, we engage decision makers throughout the year, and as co-chair of the Civil Society Policy Advisory Group, we advance commitments on reconciliation, locally led development, funding transparency, as well as civic space. We also contributed actively to GAC's Partner Advisory Group and brought GAC's Grants and Contributions Transformation Team to our forum on the future of international cooperation, a unique opportunity for direct dialogue with civil society on the future of Canada's funding systems. Our CFO working group continued to serve as a crucial bridge to GAC's CFO branch, providing feedback on the revised indirect cost compensation policy and cost allocation guide to ensure clarity, transparency, and alignment with sector realities. Next slide, please. What comes next? builds directly on the work that I've just shared with you. In the coming months, we will bring your priorities into global conversations from AGA High Level Week this week to Peace Connect in Nairobi in October, to the International Civil Society Week in November in Thailand, and upcoming G7, G20, and C7 moments, including the World Bank IMF annual meetings. We will strengthen the foundations of our sector with research on the composition of Canada's international cooperation sector, the Coalition Landscape Report, as well as examples of strategic partnership and integrations that can inspire new ways of working together. We will continue to deepen our policy engagement through stronger parliamentary outreach, budget analysis and advocacy, a gender equality and FIAP study to better document impact on the sector, and new research on Canada's development finance landscape, building on our participation at the FFD4 conference in Spain earlier this year. And we will continue to create spaces for civil society to come together, to influence, to think together, and to influence Canada's engagement in the world, including through the next iteration of the Canadian Aid Strength Report in closer collaboration with the humanitarian sector. En somme, ce travail, que ce soit la recherche, le plaidoyer, la concertation, l'engagement politique et la collaboration avec le gouvernement, renforce selon nous la société civile et garantit que nos voix, que vos voix en tant que membres soient entendues là où se prennent les décisions, ici au Canada et à l'international. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à Davy de l'équipe des programmes. Merci.
Thank you, Andy. My name is David Panetta, and I'm a Senior Program Manager at Cooperation Canada, and it's a pleasure to be with you today and to share the activity report on behalf of the programs team. As we gather today, our community faces a profound crisis of legitimacy, morale, and funding. And where and how we emerge from this crisis is yet unknown. We do know, however, that the power shift agenda is central to the necessary reforms in the sector. Shifting power, resources, influence, and decision-making authority is both a moral and a strategic imperative. Canadian organizations know this. As leaders, you're called upon every day to reset, regroup, reimagine. Where we tend to get stuck is how. The central purpose of the programs team lies here. Our purpose is to strengthen the capacity of professionals, organizations, and the Canadian aid sector at large to effectively navigate a period of deep disruption. Not only navigate it, but also define what comes next. We do this by designing and delivering practical and impactful learning opportunities to help organizations align with high technical and ethical standards. Ultimately, together, we aim to build a sector that delivers results with integrity, justice, and compassion. With the Power Shift agenda as our North Star, we work across 5 interconnected focus areas: anti-racism and cooperation, locally led development, the prevention of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, intersectional feminism, and humanitarian action and the triple nexus. Over the last fiscal year, the programs team has hosted 11 learning events, designed and delivered 8 trainings, produced 9 publications and resources, cataloged and curated hundreds of resources. We've maintained and expanded a directory of over 140 PSEH specialists across the country. We've contributed to the content development of 2 global conferences. We've completed a comprehensive review to update the Leaders Pledge on PSEH, and we are extremely proud to have hosted the Humanitarian Response Network. As we look ahead to the next year, our Shifting Power agenda is guided by 4 priorities: integration, consolidation, capacity building, and more equitable partnerships. First and foremost, we recognize that our focus areas are deeply interconnected. We cannot talk about PSEH without talking about intersectional feminism. We cannot talk about humanitarian action, the triple nexus, without talking about locally led development. And we're making more purposeful connections across these focus areas, our organizational structure, and the diverse technical audiences across our network. With the end of ARC funding last year and the end of Digna funding this year, we're consolidating the knowledge and assets of these flagship initiatives to ensure that gains are sustained and furthered. We're also excited to be launching this fall a 9-month training program, including a dozen action-oriented courses across all focus areas that are grounded in the moment. And finally, we're prioritizing the development of more equitable learning partnerships with organizations in the global majority, particularly in the areas of locally led development and civic space. Now over to Emma for an overview of the Humanitarian Response Network.
Merci David. Bonjour à toutes et tous, je m'appelle Emma Prou, je suis responsable du réseau de réponse humanitaire et je suis ravie de vous faire part des dernières nouvelles concernant le RRH et notre travail au cours de l'année écoulée, ainsi que ce qui nous attend. Notre travail s'articule autour de 4 objectifs fondamentaux définis dans le plan stratégique quinquennal du RRH, élaboré en 2024 et couvrant la période allant jusqu'en 2029. Connectés, nous créons des espaces propices à la collaboration et au partage. Deuxièmement, apprendre, nous proposons des formations, des échanges entre pairs et des partenariats avec des établissements d'enseignement. Influencer, nous collaborons avec Affaires mondiales Canada et d'autres réseaux afin de contribuer à l'amélioration des réponses humanitaires. Et finalement, renforcer, nous nous concentrons sur le renforcement des capacités du RRH, l'élargissement de notre base de membres et la garantie de notre viabilité financière. Pour les résultats récents, au cours de l'année, le réseau a organisé sa réunion des chefs d'agence en juin 2025, au cours de laquelle les participantes et participants ont convenu de la gouvernance future et ont mis à jour le système de cotisation. Nous avons également publié l'analyse du contexte humanitaire 2025, qui fournit des informations clés pour soutenir les actions de plaidoyer fondées sur des données probantes. Et récemment, nous avons également organisé une formation sur le droit international humanitaire en partenariat avec la Croix-Rouge canadienne, renforçant ainsi les connaissances et les capacités de notre réseau sur les principes fondamentaux du droit international humanitaire. Pour les initiatives à venir, nous sommes ravis de lancer des communautés de pratique sur l'IA et la localisation, offrant aux membres des espaces pour explorer des sujets émergents et partager leur expertise. Aussi, nous allons mettre en place une série de webinaires sur la réinitialisation humanitaire, offrant des occasions de discussion et d'apprentissage autour des défis en constante évolution dans le secteur. Voici 2 initiatives parmi beaucoup d'autres pour le réseau. Merci beaucoup. Je donne maintenant la parole à Gabriel pour un aperçu des communications.
Merci, Emma. Hello, everybody. I'm Gabriel, Senior Communications Manager at Coopération Canada, and I'm pleased to talk to you about what we've achieved in terms of communications over the past year. So we're pleased to have completed and launched our first thoughtful communication strategy and action plan, which is a roadmap to guide how we connect, inform, and inspire. The strategy focuses on impact storytelling, elevating our digital presence, ensuring clarity in our messaging, and upholding the highest standards of ethical communications. It also embeds our commitment to advancing our anti-racism, equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice objectives across all channels. Guidés par cette approche, nous avons renforcé nos campagnes d'infolettes, partageant les initiatives clés des événements et les actualités du secteur avec 3146 abonnés et atteignant un taux d'ouverture de 30%. Sur les réseaux sociaux, nous avons concentré nos efforts sur LinkedIn, reconnaissant le rôle croissant de cette plateforme pour notre public et l'incertitude entourant X et Facebook. Cette stratégie a porté fruit. Notre audience LinkedIn a augmenté de 40% pour atteindre 12 547 abonnés dans la dernière année. Notre site Web a continué de se développer en tant que plateforme centrale avec 117 000 sessions, une augmentation de 25% par rapport à l'année précédente, générée par du contenu nouveau, notamment des articles de blog, des pages de ressources, des mises à jour sur les événements et le lancement de notre page Nos engagements, qui détaille certains des engagements de l'organisation, et la publication de 9 nouveaux rapports. Ces résultats reflètent une année de croissance, d'alignement et d'impact alors que nous mettons en œuvre notre nouvelle stratégie. Looking ahead in 25-26, we will build on this momentum with the launch of a brand new website, enhanced thought leadership, and a strong focus on media relations. We welcome the new Digital Communications and Design Officer to the team as we continue to explore branding opportunities and align our communications with thematic priorities. Major upcoming events, including the Ottawa Civic Space Summit, will provide further opportunities to elevate our voice, engage our audiences, and demonstrate the impact of our work. Thank you.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Before we start and see this wonderful video we have here, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Générale Guerrero, one of the events coordinators at Coopération Canada. So the next few slides that I'll be presenting will summarize a handful of all the inspiring and impactful events that we have had the pleasure of planning and hosting and collaborating on this past year. So here we'll have a beautiful video showcasing our 2024 International Futures Forum that took place in October of last year. Maybe you'll spot yourself in the video. I know I'm at the beginning, which is cool. Go ahead, Nadia.
The future is deepening partnership and cooperation in ensuring that the marginalized community are put at the center of all activities that we undertake for purpose of ownership and for them to realize the positive impact of whatever we do in almost all the countries where we work.
The future is freedom expression and equality for men and women at every sector of life.
The future is global cooperation, and for us to have global cooperation, we need good global governance. And for that to happen, we must reform the United Nations.
The future is connected. The future is collaborative.
What a beautiful video that was. I love watching and just looking back to the great conference that we planned last year. But besides the Futures Forum conference, we also want to look back at the other initiatives and events that we had this past year. So first off, as a part of the International Development Week, this February 3rd, Cooperation Canada members and individuals across the civil society sector gathered for the International Development Week reception and film screening of The Legend of Vagabond Queen of Lagos, a film about forced displacement and housing rights in Nigeria. This event was in partnership with the International Development Research Center and Justice and Empowerment Initiatives Incorporated. The event also included an unveiling of The Light, which is the painting that was painted by the Métis artist Colleen Gray at the Futures Forum, and a presentation from the IDRC team about their work on global democracy, as well as a conversation with Temi, who is one of the film's directors. A few days after that screening, we also had the Cooperation Canada Awards, once again that recognize the outstanding individuals and organizations advancing a more just, safe, and sustainable world. The ceremony featured opening remarks from the former Minister of International Development, Honorable Ahmed Hussein. And we had our winners, which were Katrina Leclerc, who received the 2024 Karen Takis Award. We had Dr. Rupen Gill, who was honored the 2024 Individual Innovation and Impact Award for her transformative work in sexual and reproductive health through the Vitala Global. And then lastly, we had the organizational award that went to DID, Développement International Desjardins. And then following the awards, Cooperation Canada also hosted this year's C7 Summit at the Ottawa Art Gallery in April. This is where the Civil 7 communique was presented to the G7 Sherpa, and that was highlighting the extensive work led by our policy team and other national and international collaborators. And then lastly, led by my colleagues on the capacity strengthening team, we hosted a dialogue on preventing sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, which is PSCH, in June. This was a senior level dialogue on safeguarding with Global Affairs Canada, which brought together high-level stakeholders to explore shared priorities and strengthen the sector-wide accountability. So that was it for looking back. So now I'd like to take a bit of time to look forward at our events coming up. So this fall, Cooperation Canada is hosting our second Leaders Forum on October 29th to 30th. This forum brings together senior leaders, CEOs and executive directors, and emerging change makers into a dialogue of co-creation. This isn't a conference, but it's more of a strategic space for shared leadership and a rare opportunity to pause and reflect and strategize on a new path for Canadian international cooperations. And if you were at the Futures Forum last year, you may be asking, when will be the next opportunity to meet and engage and collaborate with your peers in that sort of large scale? So next year, in collaboration with Resilient Societies, Cooperation Canada is organizing the Ottawa Civic Space Summit on April 21st to 23rd at the National Arts Centre. So this is a bold new global platform bringing together civil society leaders, civic space activists, governments, donors, media, academics, and the private sector allies to resist repression, reclaim civic power, and reimagine a more inclusive democratic future. So if you're interested in exploring a partnership with us at the Civic Space Summit, please see our partnership package. You can scan the QR code there, but I'll put it in the chat afterwards. We hope to see you there. So now we'll be handing it over to my colleague Augusta, who will be talking all about member benefits in our working groups.
Thank you, Janelle. Hello, my name is Augusta Aqua, and I'm the Director of Membership and Outreach at Cooperation Canada. There are many great benefits to being a member of Cooperation Canada. My colleagues have already highlighted some of the core advantages: our convening power, access to events and networking opportunities, chances to contribute to policy discussions, and engagement in our communities of practice. So today I'm going to focus on a few of our newer service offerings for members. About a year ago, we moved into a shared office space with one of our members, CUSO International. As part of this arrangement, our members now have access to a meeting space for small gatherings on Mondays and Tuesdays during our in-office days. The office is conveniently located in downtown Ottawa, making it a great option for local or visiting members. We're also offering discounted rates to help support member travel and accommodation needs. Members receive a discount with Via Rail, making train travel more affordable. You also have year-round access to reduced room rates at the Sheraton Ottawa and the Chelsea Hotel in Toronto. These benefits are designed to make it easier for members to participate in sector events and meetings. Finally, members can now request a Cooperation Canada expert to attend their board meetings and speak on key sector topics. These include Canadian International Assistance, PSEAH, anti-racism, sector trends, advocacy, and more. This is a great way to bring timely insights and strategic perspectives directly to your leadership teams. Coopération Canada héberge plusieurs groupes de travail qui rassemblent des communautés de pratiques dynamiques, offrant un espace pour le partage d'informations, la collaboration interorganisationnelle et le renforcement du secteur. Les groupes de travail permettent aux membres d'apprendre les uns des autres et de renforcer l'efficacité de leur organisation. Par exemple, le groupe de travail des ressources humaines a mené un sondage sur les modalités de travail afin d'identifier les défis et les opportunités communes au sein du secteur. Les groupes de travail offrent aux membres la possibilité d'influencer les politiques publiques et de s'engager stratégiquement avec les parties prenantes. Un des exemples est le groupe de travail des directeurs financiers qui collabore avec l'équipe de subventions et contributions d'Affaires mondiales Canada pour améliorer les mécanismes de financement. Les groupes de travail offrent aux membres les occasions de développer leur leadership et de renforcer leur sentiment d'appartenance à la communauté sectorielle. L'année dernière, Coopération Canada a relancé le réseau de leaders émergents, un espace vibrant pour les professionnels en début de carrière. Ces réseaux soutiennent les jeunes professionnels dans leur apprentissage, leur intégration communautaire et leur accès à des opportunités de leadership. Il existe quelques groupes qui concentrent uniquement sur le partage d'informations. Par exemple, le groupe d'Affaires mondiales Canada et le groupe de partage d'informations sur les plaidoyers du secteur 2025. Tous les groupes sont composés de professionnels provenant de l'ensemble du secteur et sont hébergés sur la plateforme de membres GlueUp qui facilite la coordination et la coopération. L'équipe des adhésions de Coopération Canada travaille sur plusieurs initiatives importantes pour renforcer l'engagement et la valeur offerte aux membres. This fall, Coopération Canada will launch its biannual member survey to assess member satisfaction and ensure we remain relevant and responsive to their needs. Les objectifs du sondage sont les suivants. Aligner le travail de Coopération Canada sur les priorités des membres dans toutes les équipes et initiatives, informer la planification annuelle grâce à l'apport direct des membres, disposer un cadre standard pour mesurer la satisfaction des membres au fil du temps. We'll be asking members to share feedback on our advocacy efforts and government relations, the thematic priorities most relevant to them, how we're doing on communications, what support they need, and how we can improve member engagement. Next year, Coopération Canada will launch a membership growth strategy that includes a targeted approach for organizations that regularly collaborate with us, reconnecting with former members, identifying potential members who frequently participate in our events. En parallèle, Coopération Canada développera de nouveaux avantages pour les membres, des rebates supplémentaires sur des services, des options de formation collective et de développement professionnel. Coopération Canada is on a reconciliation journey, actively building relationships with Indigenous-led organizations and Indigenous people in our community. The reconciliation roadmap will help us to ensure that our internal staff processes Our governance process, our partnerships and programmatic integration, and our engagement with Indigenous communities reflect our commitments to reconciliation and Indigenous rights. I will now pass it over to Shannon Kindone, Deputy CEO.
Bonjour tout le monde. En 2024-25, Coopération Canada a publié son premier rapport d'étape annuel sur la stratégie et le plan d'action en matière d'entrée assise, d'équité, de diversité, d'inclusion et de justice. Le rapport met en lumière les jalons clés, les défis rencontrés et l'engagement de l'organisation à intégrer ces principes dans l'ensemble de ses activités. Cette démarche s'appuie sur les commentaires partagés par l'équipe, le conseil d'administration et notre réseau élargi. Nous avons 4 domaines d'action et ce sont les bases solides, par exemple, nos politiques, notre leadership au niveau d'organisation et entre l'équipe. Personne et culture, ça c'est l'expérience de notre équipe. Aligner et se connecter, ça c'est-à-dire les données qu'on utilise pour informer nos efforts et aussi comment on communique nos progrès. Et écouter et s'engager. Et ça touche tout le travail de notre équipe, l'équipe de vêtements, de politique, de programmation, capacité de développement, etc. Enfin, Coopération Canada demeure on est engagé encore dans le Leaders Pledge et aussi la cadre antiraciste. Nous publierons notre deuxième rapport au début de la nouvelle année. Depuis la première publication, nous avons poursuivi nos efforts pour faire progresser nos engagements envers l'équité, des efforts que nous avons hâte de partager avec vous, nos membres, dans ce prochain rapport. Et maintenant, je pose la parole à Kate. Merci.
Well, thank you so much to the Cooperation Canada team for presenting all of their great work from 2024-25. There has been so much collaboration, coordination, influence, and impact, and I'm very grateful for their leadership, dedication, and hard work. Thank you so much to our board of directors who have provided sound and insightful guidance and support to the organization. I would also like to personally thank outgoing board members, particularly Eileen, Alma, and Christine Bui, for everything that you have contributed to our network, our coalition, our organization that is Cooperation Canada, and for all the support that you have provided to me. At Cooperation Canada, we truly believe that we are stronger together. And while the world's outlook and the issues that we all care so much about often looks dark in this moment, we do believe that cooperation is absolutely key to sparking the ingenuity, the innovation, and the commitment needed to support sustainable development, human rights, and justice around the world. So we are all very, very grateful for the ongoing support and engagement of our incredible Cooperation Canada members. And thank you all very sincerely for the way that you engage and support all of us. And we are very excited for all the collaboration, coordination, influence, and impact that we can work together on in the year ahead. Now it's time for questions from you, our incredible members. Questions, comments, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak, or please use the chat box if you would like to express any comments, thoughts, or feedback for the team. Okay. If there are no questions or comments or feedback, we can take a 10-minute break. We look forward to seeing you all in 10 minutes to continue really important business of our membership at this important AGM. So at 2:12 p.m., Eastern Time, we will return and we have a great second half of our AGM ahead of us. Thank you so much to everyone and see you in 10 minutes.
At 2:12, and yes, okay, slides have moved on. So as some of you may know, Coopération Canada's previous strategic plan is from the 2018 to 2023 period, and it was extended over the last couple of years. However, we're now going to be in a process of launching our strategic planning process. So this is our first touch point with you as our members in terms of really sharing with you about the plan, what's coming down the line. And so I'll just give you a bit of an overview in terms of what you can expect. Next slide, please. So in conversations with our board of directors and looking towards sort of the future to come, our aim in terms of this strategic planning process will be to develop a simplified and future-oriented strategic plan that will serve, please go back one slide, that will serve as the basis for the work that we do. We do plan for it to be shorter, more simple. It will include our substantive priorities. It will focus on the core competencies we have as an organization, which hopefully we've illuminated to you in our report on looking back towards the last year, and with a longer term horizon out to 2035. So this will be more of a North Star type document that will enable us to have the flexibility to know the direction we're going in, but to really have the flexibility in how we implement the plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of this process, as many of you may know, we hosted an important initiative funded by the International Development Research Center and led by Andy, looking at the future of global cooperation. So this excellent work will provide a basis to orient ourselves in our new strategic plan in terms of what are the emerging global trends and some of the long-term directions that we see. Next slide, please. We also plan to engage with you as members in a number of different ways. So the first is we wanted to take a bit of a ground-up approach where we wouldn't necessarily be coming to each and every one of you with 50 questions around our strategic plan, but rather we are aware that many of you have gone through either strategic planning, organizational planning, corporate planning type processes. And so what we're actually doing is going through all of your plans as they are available and actually consolidating those down and analyzing them to get a sense of what you see as the key context, the context we're in, the key priorities that emerge from across the membership and the potential directions for us as Coopération Canada. So I'm aware that our membership team's already begun this process, sort of going onto your websites, taking a look at what you have publicly available, pulling this resourcing, crowdsourcing this information in. And for those of you that maybe do not have that document available publicly and want to share, we do invite you, of course, to share with us as well through the process. And I've just put in the membership at cooperation.ca email if you have anything further you'd like to share to inform that process. So this is really our aim to kind of crowdsource, get as much information as possible to start the process of our strategic planning and working with our members. Next slide, please. As Augusta had already alluded to, we will be doing a member survey this year. So of course you can expect there to be some questions in there around our future strategic directions. We will make use of our working groups as well as a really important space to ground truth, to sense check the direction that we're going, to refine the plan as it emerges. Many of you engage in the CEO space, the CEO monthly meetings. So that will be really an important space where we'll engage with leaders on the plan, but also at the Leaders Forum. So for those of you that will be attending the Leaders Forum, you'll have an opportunity to sit at a table with myself and look at the directions of the strategic plan. We'll be able to share some of our initial thinking and findings from the review of the member, of what our members are saying, and start to kind of carve out the direction. We will then also use one of the CEO meetings to kind of further validate and refine the plan ahead of board approval in June of 2026. Of course, we're engaging our board and our team through regular touch points throughout this process as well. Next slide, please. So yeah, just to give you a bit of a bird's eye view of what you can expect coming down the line. So we're sort of launching this process for our strategic planning today with you. We'll have a session at the Leaders Forum in October. Our member survey will include questions following the Leaders Forum. You'll have, we will have done our analysis, a fulsome analysis of our member strategic plans. We'll integrate all of those inputs into an initial draft in the early new year, and then consult through the working group, staff, board, and CEO spaces, further refine. And then in June, the plan would be for our board of directors to essentially approve the draft strategy, and then we'd be presenting it for ratification at the AGM in September of 2026. So that's a bit of the kind of the timeline and the steps that we have planned involved in building out our strategic plan. Any questions? Okay, I feel like that was the mandatory 7 to 10 seconds to see if anyone has questions. Sam, I'm sure we can share with you the PowerPoint after the AGM, but I'm happy to pass, pass the talking stick back to you, Christine. Thanks.
Thank you, Shannon. Before we go on to the financial statements, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on the quorum numbers, just so that it appears in our minutes. So we have 48% of our members who are present. So this is over 25%. So therefore we have quorum. So thank you so much for this. I would now like to hand over to Sama Khan, a co-chair of the board, and who is also a member of the Finance Committee and who will report on the Finance Committee itself.
Thank you, Christine, and hello again. So the Finance Committee meets quarterly to review the financial statements, budget to actual, and the remaining projections. It also keeps up to date with Coopération Canada's finance-related policies and makes recommendations on reserve fund levels. One of the essential tasks annually is to support and review the findings of Coopération Canada's annual financial audit with independent audit firm. We are pleased to share the audited financial statements and a clean audit report with you at today's AGM. We worked with our audit firm, Welsh LLP, to bring you this year's financial statements. We have been grateful for the team's efforts in working with the auditors. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I want to thank Emery and Ray for their hard work and dedication throughout this process and for advancing on key recommendations from last year's audit. Good job, team. So the audited financial statements for the fiscal year 2024-25 were received and approved by the Board of Directors on the September 9th meeting this year. And you should have received a copy of these with your AGM package. And the team will also be putting these up in the chat for now if you'd like to review. So provide us with an overview of the audited statements and the audit findings. I want to introduce Emery Exie, who's the Director of Finance and Operations at Coopération Canada.
Thanks so much, Osama. Let me quickly share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emre Ekşi, and I'm the Director of Operations and Finance at Coopération Canada. I will now present the audit financial statements of Coopération Canada for the year ended March 31st, 2025. These statements have been audited by Welsh LLP, and the auditors have issued an unmodified opinion confirming that our financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and the results of the organization in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. I will start with the balance sheet. Our total assets increased to approximately $2.7 million, up from $1.4 million the previous year. This growth is primarily due to higher cash balances at year-end, reflecting the timing of deferred contributions received. On the liabilities side, deferred contributions rose to just over $2 million compared to $812,000 last year. This represents funding received for programs and activities that will be carried out in the coming year. Net assets increased to about $508,000, reflecting strong financial stewardship and stability in our reserves. I will move on to the income statement of operations. Total revenues for the year were $3.8 million compared to $3 million in the prior year. The increase was mainly driven by institutional donor funding and significantly higher event revenues. Total expenses were $3.75 million, up from $3 million the year before, reflecting expanded program delivery and organizational activities. The organization ended the year with a surplus of approximately $82,000, constant with the prior year. Now I will move on to the cash flow statement. Cash increased significantly during the year, with year-end cash balance at just under $2 million compared to $860,000 the prior year. This increase was largely due to deferred contributions received for projects beginning in the fiscal year. Our strong cash position ensures that we are well prepared to deliver on our commitments in the year ahead. And in summary, the financial statements reflect a year of growth in revenues and program activity, a positive operating result, and a strong cash position going into the next fiscal year. The audit confirmed that our financial reporting is accurate and transparent, and we remain in stable financial position to continue advancing our mission. I would like to thank our finance team, staff, and partners for their diligence and contributions to maintaining the organization's financial health. And that concludes my presentation of the audit financial statements. Over to you, Osama.
Thank you so much, Emery. So before we turn to questions from the members, I just wanted to share a few highlights which are important for members to retain from the statements which are presented. Overall, the financial health of the organization remains in good standing. Organization has healthy reserves. Coopération Canada is looking ahead to a 30% increase in the revenues as a result of the new funding that's been secured. And the organization's funding continues on a path for diversification, with no single funding source contributing more than 50% of its revenues. Back to you, Christine.
Thank you very much, Osama and Emre. We will now take questions from members regarding the financial statements which were just presented. I think there's a question, Emre, in the chat box.
No, we don't get individual donations. They are mainly consist of institutional funders like Global Affairs Canada, IDRC, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and some smaller other organizational funders.
Thank you, Emery. Any other questions before we move on to the motion to receive the financial statements? No questions. Donc, on va faire la proposition afin de recevoir les états financiers 2024-2025. J'ai seulement besoin d'un proposeur donc, s'il vous plaît, levez la main pour proposer et appuyer. Je vais prendre le I need another person. Sorry, I lost my connection just there. So motion proposed by Musu and second, I saw them.
Yeah, we're still having a hard time hearing you, Christine. I wonder if Osama could just step in for a moment, or
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Osama.
So we'll just do the motion once again for the approval of the audited financial statements. We can get okay, we have Musu and we have Farada. Fantastic. Okay, and also acknowledging we had Melanie Platt here who's a partner at Welsh LLP. Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Melanie, you're free to resume the rest of your day, and we appreciate all the hard work with the audit, working with our team once again this year.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure with working with a fantastic organization. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much. All right, Christine, are you back?
Yes.
That's right.
I hope it works now.
It's good so far. We'll just do the motion for the approval of the auditors for next year.
Great. Donc, en tant que membre du comité des finances, Oussama Khan fait la proposition de nommer la firme Welsh LLP comme auditeur pour 2025-2026. J'ai seulement besoin d'un appui, donc s'il vous plaît, levez la main pour appuyer. Motion proposed by Oussama Khan and seconded by Janice Hamilton. Est-ce que quelqu'un demande le vote? Sinon, ça va être adopté à l'unanimité. Donc, je vais attendre une seconde pour voir si quelqu'un lève la main. Non, donc c'est adopté à l'unanimité. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the finance portion of this AGM. We will now turn our attention to the election of directors to the Board of Cooperation Canada. Just double checking that my connection and my sound is working. Yes, okay, good. Phew. So the AGM is an important moment of member engagement every year. It's a moment to discuss updates and financial matters, and it's when our membership elects its board of directors. Our board comprises directors that are elected from our membership in order to represent its diversity and interest in the ongoing governance of the organization. According to our bylaws, the board of directors shall consist of 14 members, being directors at large, comprised of 10 persons nominated and elected by members, excluding those representing the provincial and regional councils, as well as 4 nominees of provincial and regional councils, one of which shall be from Quebec, the others to be chosen from the other provincial and regional councils, according to a process decided upon by the board of directors. This year, we opened the nominations for the board of directors with several outreach points to Cooperation Canada members and a nomination deadline of August 15, 2025. Next slide, please. Cooperation Canada has a board diversity policy, which was revised in 2023, which you can see on the screen in front of you. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the encouragement of our diverse cross-section of our members to participate on the board. Previous slide, please. Next. Next slide, please. And now for the 50-30 challenge. The board also reminds members that Cooperation Canada is a signatory to the 50-30 challenge, which is a nationwide initiative. The goal of this initiative is to challenge Canadian organizations coast to coast to increase the representation and inclusion of diverse groups within their workplaces, while highlighting the benefits of giving all Canadians a seat at the table. The 50-30 challenge asks that organizations aspire to two goals. First, gender parity, at least 50% on Canadian boards and our senior management, as well as the significant representation, at least 30% of members of other equity-deserving groups. Alongside these critical commitments, Cooperation Canada is committed to reconciliation, Indigenous leadership, and board diversity, including in governance. The organization is taking a number of steps towards supporting Indigenous rights, leadership, and reconciliation. Next slide, please. Finally, members will also recall that we identified the following priorities for recruitment in 2025. In terms of skills and organizational characteristics, so people with executive strategic leadership experience, people with strategic leadership experience working with organizations that focus on issues central to international cooperation, as well as individuals who reflect Canada's racial, linguistic, cultural, and regional diversity. Next slide, please. This year, 3 board members came to the end of their terms and stood for re-election. Catherine M. Jenkins from the Equality Fund, Usama Khan, Islamic Relief Canada, and Dorothy Nyambi from MEDA. 5 board members came to the end of their terms and will not stand again. Eileen Alma from the Coady Institute, myself, Tanjina Mirza from Plan International Canada, and Tracy Wallace from the Northern Council for International Cooperation. Please note that Zara Rivzibzi from the Saskatchewan International Council recently stepped down due to moving on from the organization. 6 board members are not up for re-election and will remain on the board. Michel Asselin from ACOSI, Anne-Catherine Bajard from the British Columbia Council for International Cooperation, Julie Francoeur from Fair Trade Canada, Farada Jacob Lightning from BIDIA, Moussou Taylor Lewis from Food for the Hungry Canada, and Béatrice Vaugran from Oxfam, Quebec. First, I'd like to thank all candidates who put their names forward. I would also like to thank the 62 member organizations who participated in the voting process, which was done electronically and which was open from September 2nd to the 12th of this year. We will now be conducting a motion to ratify the candidates elected. We will be asking you as the membership to first ratify 6 elected board members and ratify 2 board members from the provincial and regional councils. I am now pleased to announce that our elected board members for the upcoming year are, I guess we don't have any drum roll. The candidates elected for a first term are Nicolas Moyer, CEO of CUSO International, Diane Oregio, Director of Finance, Oxfam Canada, and Jessica Wood, Executive Director of Seed Change. Congratulations. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm seeing someone's email. The candidates returning for another term are Catherine M. Jenkins, Managing Director, Executive Office of Equality Fund, Usama Khan, Chief Executive Officer, Islamic Relief Canada, and Dorothy Nyambi, President and CEO of Mennonite Economic Development Associates, MEDA. We are really pleased with the candidates being put forward to the membership for ratification. The nominees are all outstanding candidates with much to offer our organization and membership. You hopefully have had a chance to review their biographies and videos. We will now move on to the ratification. Given the importance of the election of our board of directors, we will be taking a vote. I will need someone to propose and second this motion. I will then call a vote. I need a motion to ratify to the elected candidates: Catherine M. Jenkins, Usama Khan, Nicolas Moyer, Dorothy Nyambi, Diane Oregio, and Jessica Wood as directors of the Board of Cooperation Canada. Please raise your hand to propose and second this motion. I will take the first two hands raised as proposer and seconder. So thank you. Motion proposed by Will Posna and seconded by Lindsay Glasgow. I will now call for a vote. So this is the tricky part, please listen. If you are in favor of the motion, you don't need to raise your hand or indicate anything in the chat box. It is assumed you vote in support. Please indicate in the chat or raise your hand if you're against this motion. Please indicate in the chat or raise your hand if you abstain from voting. I'm seeing a comment that my sound is coming in and out. Is it okay? Yes, okay. So I'm not seeing anything.
It's okay now.
Can somebody give me the results? I think Augusta, you're on mute.
There's no abstentions or votes against this. So I think you're okay.
Oh, that's great. So following the end of the two-year term for Tracy Wallace of the Northern Council for International Cooperation and Zara Ribzi, formerly of the Saskatchewan Council for National Cooperation, we have received the following nominees from the provincial and regional councils. Kimberly Gibbons, Executive Director of the Ontario Council for International Cooperation, and Sandra Mutekeza, Executive Director of the Alberta Council for Global Cooperation. I see a hand up from Janice Hamilton. Is this to pass the motion, or do you have a question? Okay, thank you. I need a motion to ratify to the nominations of Kimberly Gibbons and Sandra Muchikeza as directors of Cooperation Canada. Please raise your hand to propose and second this motion. I will take the first two hands raised as proposer and seconder. So motion proposed by Janice Hamilton and seconded by Doug Kerr. Thank you very much. I will now call for a vote. So if you're in favor of the motion, you don't need to raise your hand or indicate anything in the chat box. It is assumed you vote in support. Please indicate in the chat box or raise your hand if you're against this motion. Please indicate in the chat or raise your hand if you abstain from voting. So I see here that there is no abstention and no against. I would now like to welcome everyone to your new board for 2025-2026. Congratulations to all the people who have been nominated and elected. Congratulations, everybody. Félicitations. We have actually now concluded all the originally scheduled agenda items for this AGM. I think there was no additional agenda items, but now maybe opening it up if there were any other items which members would like to raise. Kate.
Merci, Christine. My sincere thanks to Christine for doing an amazing job emceeing our annual general meeting today. So maybe everyone can join me in giving Christine a round of applause and also acknowledging her incredible leadership as co-chair of the Cooperation Canada board as she steps down. This is a note for outgoing, incoming, and existing members of the Cooperation Canada board, including those who have just been elected. We do have a meeting this afternoon But to give everyone some more time, the recommendation from Usama, who will be chairing, and myself, is that we start on the hour. So take some time to have a drink, take a breath, and we will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for the Cooperation Canada board meeting. And as you all know, all outgoing members, incoming members, and existing members of the board are welcome. So we will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So Christine, back to you to close the meeting. And thank you very much to everyone for being part of a really, really great AGM.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you very much to all the candidates and the new board members. And thank you also to the staff of Cooperation Canada for all the heavy lift. It's a lot of work and prep work ahead of this AGM that you don't always get to see. We have now come to the end of our agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Please raise your hand to propose and second. Motion proposed by Musu, Taylor Lewis, and seconded by Eileen Alma. Thank you for a great AGM and see you at our upcoming initiatives. Thank you so much.